This video is gonna be the first in a series of videos in which I will be talking about adverbs, what adverbs are and what the different types of adverbs are. And in this video, it's an introductory video in which I will be talking about a certain type of adverbs, which is the comment and viewpoint adverbs. But before we get to talk about these two types of adverbs, maybe we should describe and define what an adverb is. Well, there's a difference in English between an adjective and an adverb. So when I say that Rebecca is a slow driver, Rebecca is a slow driver, so the word slow is an adjective because it describes Rebecca, who is the driver. So when you describe a noun, the word which describes a noun is an adjective. So you say Rebecca is a slow driver. Slow here as an adjective describes the noun Rebecca or the noun driver, because Rebecca and driver are the same person in this sentence. And adjectives can also describe nouns. Can also describe pronouns. So instead of saying, for example, that Robert is smart, I can say that he is smart. Smart in this sentence is the adjective which describes either the noun Robert or the pronoun he. So the rule or the point I'm making here is that adjectives are words which are used to describe nouns or pronouns. On the other hand, adverbs do not describe nouns and pronouns. They describe verbs. So, getting back to the same example I mentioned at the beginning of the video, which is Rebecca is a slow driver, we said that slow describes Rebecca or describes driver, and Rebecca and driver are two nouns, so slow is an adjective because it's describing a noun. But when you say Rebecca drives slowly, Rebecca drives slowly, so slowly is an adverb which describes the verb drives. So slow is the adjective describing a noun or a pronoun, whereas slowly is an adverb which describes the verb. Rebecca is a slow driver. Slow describes Rebecca, so slow is an adjective because Rebecca is a noun, whereas Rebecca drives slowly. Slowly is an adverb because it describes the word drives, which is a verb. The rule of thumb in making adverbs is adding the suffix ly to the adjective. So if you bring an adjective and you add the suffix ly to it, you change it from an adjective into an adverb. So slow is an adjective. Slowly is an adverb. Soft is an adjective. Softly is an adverb. Careless is an adjective. Carelessly is an adverb, and so forth. So, the rule of thumb here is that adverbs are made by adding the suffix ly to the adjective. But does this mean that all adverb must end in ly? Not really. No. There are a lot of adverbs in English which do not end in ly. For example, a word like always is an adverb. A word like never is an adverb. A word like often, in American English or even in British English, they pronounce it often, but in some British regions, they pronounce it often. Often, this word is an adverb. So, what I'm trying to say here is that while the general rule of thumb is to make an adverb by adding the suffix ly to the adjective, but this doesn't deny the fact that many adverbs in English do not end in ly, and examples of these are always, sometimes, never, quite, rather. All of these are examples of even very. You know the word very, very good. Very is an adverb. So all of these are examples of words which are classified as adverbs at the time they do not end in a suffix ly. Right. So in this video, I want to talk about two particular types of adverbs. The first type is called comment adverbs, whereas the second type is called the viewpoint adverbs. Let's begin with the first type, which is comment adverbs. So comment adverbs are used to make a comment on somebody or something. Let's have some examples of comment adverbs. We can have an adverb like presumably. Presumably is a comment adverb. Surprisingly. Surprisingly is a comment adverb. Obviously is also a comment adverb. As you can see, these three examples are derived from adjectives. They are made by adding the suffix ly to the adjectives. So presumably is presumable plus ly, where presumable is the adjective and the suffix ly is added to it. Surprisingly. Surprising is the adjective. When we add the suffix ly to it, we get the comment adverb surprisingly. Obviously is the comment adverb made by adding the suffix ly to the adjective obvious. Comment adverbs, just like all other adverbs in English, can go in three positions in the sentence. So what I'm gonna say right now about comment adverbs is applicable to most adverbs in English. Most adverbs in English can go in one of three positions, either at the beginning of the sentence, or at the end of the sentence, or in the middle of the sentence. So let's have some examples on comment adverbs. Jackson believes that child development can be slowed down by poor nutrition. I haven't mentioned the comment adverb so far. Jackson believes that child development can be slowed down by poor nutrition. Well, now let's use the comment adverb. This is undoubtedly the case. So I'm making a comment on Jackson's belief here. What is Jackson's belief? Jackson's belief is that child development is hindered or slowed down or hampered by poor nutrition. And I make a comment by reiterating this, by emphasizing that it's true, and I say, this is undoubtedly the case. So where is the comment adverb here? It's undoubtedly. It's made by adding the suffix ly to the adjective undoubted. So in this sentence, the comment adverb is placed in the middle of the sentence. Let's have another example with a comment adverb at the beginning of the sentence. Presumably, he didn't hear me when I called. So I'm making a comment on his lack of response. He didn't respond when I called him. So I'm making a comment here by saying, presumably, I'm beginning the sentence with the comment adverb here, presumably, he didn't hear me when I called. So I'm making a comment, and I think, and I assume, presumably means I assume. I assume that he didn't hear me when I called. So in this example, the comment adverb is placed at the beginning of the sentence. Let's have a third example of comment adverbs placed at the end of the sentence, in which we separate it from the sentence with a comma. The book was based on his experience in China, apparently. Again, the book was based on his experience in China, comma, apparently. This means I'm making a comment. I believe, I think, I reckon, I suppose, it seems that this book is based on his experience in China. So the three examples we provided show the usage of comment adverbs in the three possible positions for adverbs in sentences. And these are in the middle of the sentence, at the beginning of the sentence, or at the end of it. Right, so comment adverbs are adverbs which are used to make a comment on somebody or to make a comment on something. Now, let's move on to the second type of adverbs, and that's viewpoint adverbs. And as the name suggests, they are called viewpoint adverbs. What's viewpoint? Viewpoint is your point of view. Viewpoint is your opinion. So, when you use a viewpoint adverb, you try to show the perspective you are speaking from. Your perspective on a certain matter is the angle from which you see that problem, how you regard it, how you react to it, what is your opinion about it or your opinion on it, right? So we use viewpoint adverbs to talk about our points of view, to talk about our viewpoints. Let me take an example here, which is the word financially. Financially is an adverb, apparently, because it consists of the adjective financial and the suffix ly added to it. So, in this example, if we listen to the example, financially, the accident is a disaster for the owner of the lorry. A lorry is the British word for a truck. A truck is an American word. So, again, the sentence says, financially, I'm beginning the sentence with the viewpoint adverb here, financially, which means from the financial perspective, the accident is a disaster for the owner of the lorry, for the owner of the lorry. Another example, the brothers may be alike physically. So, from a physical point of view, when it comes to their external appearance, when it comes to their morphology, how they look like externally or how their exterior looks like, physically, they may be alike, but they have very different personalities. So, in terms of character, when it comes to character or personality, they are absolutely distinct, extremely different. But from a physical point of view, from the perspective of their physical appearance, they may be alike. So as we could see in these two examples, financially and physically are examples of viewpoint adverbs, which are used to talk about the angle or the perspective from which we talk about a certain matter, or from which we look at a certain matter and regard it. Well, we have a number of expressions in English that can be used instead of viewpoints adverb. So let's take the viewpoint adverb financially as an example. In the example we said financially, the accident is a disaster for the owner of the lorry. We can replace the viewpoint adverb financially in this sentence with many expressions. We can say, for example, financially speaking. So we can say, financially speaking, the accident is a disaster. We can also we can replace it with the expression in financial terms. So we can say, in financial terms, the accident is a disaster. We can also say, in terms of finance, in terms of plus noun, the noun here being finance. In terms of finance, the accident is a disaster. We can also use the expression from a financial point of view. Rather than saying financially, we can use the expression from a financial point of view, the accident is a disaster. And the last expression usable here is as far as finance is concerned. As far as finance is concerned, we are using the noun here also, finance. As far as finance is concerned, the accident is a disaster. So we can replace a viewpoint adverb with 5 expressions. These are, we're talking here as an example about the viewpoint adverb financially. We can say, financially speaking, in financial terms, in terms of finance, from a financial point of view, and lastly, as far as finance is concerned. Right, so the last point I want to make today is talking about some expressions which are used to introduce somebody's opinion. If you want to talk about the opinion of somebody, let's say that the person we're talking about is Adam, a man called Adam. You can introduce Adam's opinion by using 5 expressions as also. You can say, according to Adam, and then you say the thing which you consider as Adam's opinion. According to Adam, or to Adam's knowledge. Let's say that the opinion, that Adam's opinion is that distant learning isn't efficient as class learning. So this is Adam's opinion. Adam thinks that distant learning isn't as efficient as class learning, right? So we can say, according to Adam, distant learning isn't as efficient as class learning. Or, to Adam's knowledge, distant learning isn't as efficient as class learning. The third way to say it, we can say, in Adam's view, distant learning isn't as efficient as class learning. And finally, or the last one, from Adam's perspective, distant learning isn't as efficient as class learning. So the 4 expressions that we can use to introduce somebody's opinion is to say, according to this person's name, to this person's knowledge, in this person's view, from that person's perspective. And if you are talking about your own opinion, you can apply all these expressions on you. So you can say, according to me, and then you mention your opinion. To my knowledge, in my view, from my perspective, or you can say personally, and that's the 5th way of introducing your own opinion. So this one is applicable when you are talking about your own opinion rather than about somebody else's opinion, is that you say, personally, I think that distant learning isn't as efficient as class learning. So, to wrap up what we said today, and to recapitalize again on it, or to recapitulate again on it, we talked about adverbs, we compared adjectives to adverbs, and we talked about 2 main types of adverbs today. These are comment adverbs, which are the adverbs used to comment on somebody or something, And we talked about viewpoint adverbs, which are adverbs used to talk about the perspective from which you're looking at a certain matter, or the angle from which you look or from which you regard a certain topic. And as I said in the beginning of the video, this is the first video in a group or a series of videos in which we will be talking about adverbs and adjectives in English. So stay tuned for the upcoming videos, and thank you for your attentive listening, and let's meet in our next episode. Enjoy the rest of your day, and goodbye for now.